Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SB Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Tyeon titled One For Me. And if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on YouTube. We have listened to music previously from Tyeon. We previously reviewed his track titled New Flame, but we're going to be checking out again One For Me today. We're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Nice to have the synth intro. With a bit of filtering and reverb there, some delay tails. I mean, like, I think that the fundamentals of music composition in theory have been obeyed here. I think that we've got ourselves a catchy hook line with a vocal melody that harmonizes well with the motif there. My only concern at this point is that I think that the drums are a little bit too punchy in the mix and they kind of overpower Tyeon's vocals a little bit. Okay, I think that it iterates well. The 808 coming in the hook section was nice as well. Bit of extra kind of spice there. Okay. I think that this review is going to be fairly straightforward. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, but most of it is positive. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Tyeon. This track titled One For Me. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think that this track is about someone. You know, I presume he's talking to the woman in the video, saying, you're the love for me, you're the one for me. I want you and I to have this kind of special connection. I don't want anyone else. This is, you know, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this. And I think that that's a kind of a wholesome story. I know there's more nuance to it than that, but that's the crux of it effectively. And I think that in a 2-minute time span for a track, that story was articulated well. I like the relative accessibility of it. I think there's a lot of people who'll be able to sort of relate to that feeling, you know. The vocal performance was good. It was good. I think that we're comfortable in our vocal range. The vocals sounded kind of quiet in the mix. And again, I think it's because of the drums being like maybe a little bit too present. But outside of that, I still think the vocal melodies we sung were good. We understand music theory and composition. I think there's promise in the fact that we were able to harmonize really nicely with the backing motif there. And we had variety between the different sections we had with like the vocal within the verse and the hooks. I think it was great to have the A-B structure going there with occasional instrumental breaks there. And Tyeon knew when to come in and when to kind of go away from the rest of the mix, and it was good. I think that we told the story we needed to, and we told in a way where we were passionate about what we were singing about. And if there's anything I would say just as constructive feedback. I'm just wondering how much of our diaphragm we're using when we sing. I'm wondering if it'd be good to get a bit more kind of chest voice into it, just to get a bit more kind of power behind the way that we're expressing ourselves. This isn't a criticism, it's more just checking that when we are recording our vocals and when we are singing, that we're using both our head and our chest voice, and we're finding a way to get a nice sense of body to the lines that we're singing where appropriate. But if we're comfortable with the way that we're singing and we're comfortable with the position in our vocal range, then that's totally fine. I don't think we needed vocal harmonies here. It was a short enough track where we can kind of vibe with what's going on, and I think it was good. The track at 2 minutes 06 was again nice and short, just within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. We had enough context to understand what was going on to be able to appreciate it. I don't think we needed to do anything differently there. The verse chorus structure combined with moments where you had the trappish kind of hip-hopish kind of kick snares and then hi-hats with the synths, with the interesting arpeggio that came in. Again, it was great to just have the synth arpeggio with a bit of filtering, reverb, and delay in there, just to kind of add a bit of mystery to it. It's great to allow that theme to have its time in the sun. I don't know if the theme would have necessarily survived further iteration, like if we could have repeated it for more than the 2 minute mark, simply because I felt like at that last outro chorus we were already pretty comfortable with what we were putting forward to the listener, with a combination of the occasional 808s intermingled with like the hi-hats, kicks and snares, the synth parts, the pads, etc. So I'm glad that we again kept the track short, because we had a good idea for a backing to the story and the vocals, and we're in and out, and that's fine. The drums had some interesting rhythms to them. I liked the occasional triplets and sixteenths on those hi-hats. They kind of unpredictably to it, made it more interesting to listen to, whilst you still had a groove moving you forward with those kicks and snare parts. I think that rhythm, that eighth note phrasing, was shared with the synth parts that came in the initial bit. They were nice and colorful without being too bright. It was almost like it was more intimate because of that. Things weren't totally all sparky and happy and stuff like that. It was more like we were a bit more sort of feeling maybe a little bit more vulnerable about expressing our feelings to the person that we were singing to, and we wanted to kind of emote that in a way that was appropriate to them. So I think that the choice of sound and texture with the motif made sense with the story. And the bass line, when it came in, was nice and thick and full sounding and rounded out the lower part of the frequency spectrum really well, and had a nice bit of force. But it was good to have it occasionally and to have it kind of dip out between bits so that the track didn't have the same perceived loudness the whole way through. The combination of the vocals with the story combined with the instrumental backing, it was, again, as I mentioned, the overall tone of it sounded like, add a sense of intimacy to it. It was still kind of trying to keep relatively kind of calm and collected at the same time, not trying to go too over the top with it. And I think that some of the really nice interval harmonies going on between the vocals and the upper keys there that we had there, which were charming in the mid to high range, really allowed us to have a moment of hope for what Tyeon was about for trying to accomplish with this person. Finally, the studio recording, mixing and mastering, it sounded good. Again, I mentioned that I think the vocals were a little bit quieter than like the drum parts. That's something where, like, for example, if you can, when you're like in a DAW, digital audio workshop, workstation, whatever, if you can just like find a way to make the mix mono, if we're not doing it already, but in case we aren't doing it, if with like the next track we can just double check by putting into mono and just checking how loud the drums are comparative to the vocals, I just feel like we could have lowered the drums a little bit to help them balance better with the bass, with the vocals. But to be fair, it could be these headphones, it could be a number of things. It really depends on the workstation you've got going. Everyone's setup is different, so everything sounds a bit different, but that's just my 2 cents on it. Aside from the vocals and the drums and how they were leveling with each other, I think that the vocals sounded nice in the mix. I would have to sort of know more about how the vocals were recorded to really give feedback on how that could be improved. But I think, again, like the feedback I gave was just a bit more sort of chest voice, a bit more kind of body to the performance next time. Or just give it more kind of presence in the mix. I think as well, the rest of the motifs sounded great though. There was nice balance in the frequency spectrum. Things were nice and wide in the stereo field as well. So, it was interesting to listen to throughout, with nice changes in the perceived loudness due to the dynamic range that was instantiated, not only compositionally, but also with allowances within the master chain there. I think finally it was nice and loud without pumping, so the limiting and bus compression were handled. I mean, effectively, this is my review of Tyeon's track 1 for me, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and a YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.